I'm Kendra, and here at HappenstancePlace, we have been all about home canning this summer, and now, this fall and winter, we get to reap the benefits by eating all of the delicious food grown in our very own garden. So today, and through the whole month of October, I'm going to walk you through how I use the foods we've been canning and putting up in meals throughout the year. Tonight, we're going to make some pasta. So we're going to use elbow macaroni with yellow tomatoes and sausage, and then I'm going to stir in some cottage cheese at the end. So what you're going to need is a pound of ground sausage that I have browning up right there. Our sausage comes from our butcher where all of our meat comes. We do get our meat from the 4-H kids at the fair, goes off to our local butcher, and then gets brought back to us to our specifications, and I really like their mild ground sausage. Now we have a 2-pound box of elbow macaroni. We're going to use about half of that. I have a jar of yellow tomatoes. This is actually the last jar of my tomatoes from 2016 that were in the basement. I'm going to use some rosemary, which we dried out of the garden as well, and some of our homemade garlic powder. Again, this was dehydrated garlic that we then just kind of blitzed up, also from the garden. I'm going to add some seasoned salt to this, and finally when we're done, we'll stir in a little bit of cottage cheese for some creamy goodness. So I'm going to finish browning this up, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so as you can see, my stove is a bit messy. I have been canning today, and there was a little bit of run over. I haven't had a chance to clean everything because it hasn't been cool enough yet on the stove. So as soon as I'm done making dinner and everything cools down, then the whole place will get cleaned up. But for now, I'm just finishing moving around this brown sausage. And now we're going to add in our macaroni. I'm using it out of a 2-pound box. I got this at Aldi. I'm going to pour about half of the box in. We do have a family of 5, so we eat a decent amount. This will probably be enough for dinner tonight with a little bit of leftovers. I don't know if it'll be enough leftovers for all of us to have another meal of it. I'm just going to stir the macaroni around, kind of get those sausagey juices all over everything. And the next thing that I'm going to do is add the can of tomatoes. Now this is 1 quart of yellow tomatoes. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this jar lid. It should make a nice little noise. Yep, that's what we're hoping for. And I'm just going to pour my tomatoes in. And kind of stir them around. Now, yellow tomatoes are less acidic than red tomatoes, so they have a slightly different flavor when they're on their own. If you mix them with the red, you can't really tell a difference, but I do find in pasta, when you make just a yellow tomato sauce, it's a little lighter and brighter, and I do like it with sausage. I find it's a really nice combination. It also is very good with green beans. I will likely heat up a jar of green beans to go with this as a side dish. So now that I've got my tomatoes kind of squished in, I do can my tomatoes with the skins on because why give up all that good nutrition that you've grown if you don't have to? And I just want to make sure that everything is kind of covered and that I've also kind of scraped everything off of the bottom so nothing is sticking. Okay, now I'm going to just go ahead and add my seasonings to this. And we're going to take some rosemary. Put about, I don't know, a palmful like that. I'm going to squish it up real good. Ooh, I can already smell it. Kind of release all those good oils and put it around. I also frequently add sage to this particular mix, but I don't have a jar of sage up here right now, and I didn't want to go and find one. So tonight we're just having rosemary. And I'm going to put a big pinch of garlic powder. And we'll go ahead and put another big pinch in because our family really likes garlic. Okay. And I'm going to close this bag up right quick so that it doesn't get humid in there and make everything hard. And then with a little bit of seasoned salt, I always like to give it a little shake to reincorporate the ingredients. I enjoy seasoned salt over regular salt for most purposes because I do like kind of the celery seed taste that's in it. Okay. That's enough of that. And again, we're just going to stir everything up a little. And I have one more seasoning I want to add. I like to add just a little shake of sugar in here. When I used canned tomatoes, I find that it brightens the flavor and it just makes them, it takes this edge off. of any kind of canned tomato product when there's just a hint of sugar in. It'll cut any potential bitterness, and we are plenty bitter on our own, so we don't need any extra bitterness from our tomatoes. So I'm going to just stir this up, and then I'm going to take the same jar that I poured my tomatoes out of. I'm going to put a little bit of water in it, and I'm going to add enough water to cover the pasta. Alternatively, you could just add more tomatoes, but I don't think, like, this pan doesn't really hold a full 2 quarts of tomatoes with all the things in it very well, and I don't really need that much pasta tonight. But the amount of liquid in here is not enough to cook this much macaroni. So I'm going to go grab a little bit of water. So you can see here, we got about half a jar. And I like to use the jar that the tomatoes came in because it, you know, rinses out any of that extra good flavor in there. And then I'm just going to pour it over until our noodles are completely covered. And again, I like to stir to incorporate. I really like to incorporate. Plus, again, it does make sure that your noodles are not stuck to the bottom. And then, so that's all done, I kind of squish everything down, make sure it's all covered so that things will hydrate nice and even. And I'm just going to throw a lid on this and turn the heat down to low. I'm still going to keep my eye on it because even when it's on low, it can boil over. So the lid on top will help keep the heat, make it come up a little quicker. It will also help hydrate those noodles pretty quick. It does get to be kind of boiling. You're worried about boiling over. Just turn off the heat, leave the lid on, and let that hot juice that's already in there just do its job, and it'll hydrate on its own. It does take a skoonch longer, but not very long at all. And then when that's all done, we'll come back and stir in some cottage cheese. So at this point, I have let the pasta cook for 10 minutes. It simmered. Then I turned it off and I let it sit for 5 minutes so it could absorb the rest of the liquid. I'm just going to give it a little stir. Oh, that looks so tasty. And then we're going to add our cottage cheese in. Okay, I'm gonna grab a spoon here. And I just opened up a can of cottage cheese, or a container. This is the 4% small curd cottage cheese, and I'm going to put about half of the container in. See, half. And I'm just gonna stir that through. It's gonna add a nice creaminess. And then we don't have to put any cheese or anything on it. It'll be perfect just like this. You can also, it's just as tasty without, but we have some cottage cheese in the fridge, so I figured we would just add that in. And then I'm going to throw a jar of green beans. I'm gonna just pop the top and throw the jar as is, without the metal top obviously, into the microwave for a couple of minutes and heat that through. And then I will dish up some plates. And here we have the finished product. As you can see, I just heated the green beans up right in the jar, and then I'm just using a slotted spoon to serve them. So we have our macaroni cooked with sausage and yellow tomatoes, with a little bit of cottage cheese stirred in at the end, and some green beans. If you enjoyed this video, you can go ahead and give it a thumbs up down below. There's also a link on the screen to the other Feed Your Face videos if you'd like to see more foodie content. And you can also subscribe to see our daily vlogs and see what we're up to around here. I'll see you all next time. Bye!